the Democratic and Republican national conventions have now come and gone, while media coverage is swarming with images of protest turned violent, what impact are these conventions? What if they had on the presidential race? I've got David Lamb, one of the best people in the business, to tell us that. David, I'm looking at the Trump show, otherwise known as Republican National Convention. It's in the books. Democratic Convention in the books. We've talked about that already. Did the president get any sort of bump from that show?
Neither candidate actually got very much of a bump in this. I've got a Morning Consult poll taken after the Republican National Convention. So now both conventions are in the book. There's just been a little bit of a movement in the president's direction. What I would warn against, Pat, at this point, a couple of months out, is paying attention to these national polls. The discussion points. What are the messages that the debates and the discussions are framed around, and who gains the advantage there? You were talking earlier about the Nixon land. I would advise our viewers to go back 6 weeks whenever you called this playbook. It's the Law and Order playbook. You predicted it a couple of months ago. It is in action right now. That is what is happening. If there were a drinking game, every time Trump said law and order, we would all be hammered.
Well, look at his ads. Rick Perlstein, the reason I think Nixon land, and the people that attack this idea, they need to read the book before they attack the idea. Yeah. But Richard Perlstein's brilliant. And he wrote this book and he said, look, what happens when you take chaos? When you take chaos and you make it work for your talking points. There's nobody better than Karl Rove.
Right.
He learned under Lee Atwater.
Right.
Lee Atwater learned under Donald Segretti. These are all Nixon people. Mm-hmm. And they know how to take things like Kenosha and Portland and Seattle and Chicago and New York and Antifa. They know how to take all that and turn it into something that scares the bejesus out of people. Mm-hmm. Are polls showing that that's probably taking place?
Polls are showing movement in terms of the suburban voters this election. Everyone's going after those undecided, more independent, more moderate, if you will, suburban voters. That's where folks are going. Trump got them in 2016. There's a battle for them today. What are those suburban voters? What's causing that movement? As the discussion switches and kind of pivots from the coronavirus to your safety, to law and order, to justice, and the protests are framed more as anarchist. And the violence and the fires and the looting.
It didn't start out like that.
It didn't.
And now where is it? How is that regarded? The looters, they're not called protesters anymore.
Right.
They're called rioters.
Yeah.
The stories are people shooting. I saw a headline today where they talk about the police officer who was shot in the back of the head by a protester.
Right.
That was a rioter.
Right.
Died.
Yeah.
And so they're seeing these kinds of stories every day, and the numbers, you believe, are tapping into that.
They are. There is movement there. Trump is seen as more decisive and more of a stronger leader in that sense. Biden is seen as weak. The basement strategy is coming back to bite him because it seems as though he's either and this is the view with many of the voters. He's either avoiding Trump or he's avoiding the controversy and calling out and being a decisive leader. The president of the United States has to be. Whenever the discussion is on law and order, on rioting and looting, Trump wins.
You're talking about the polls.
The polls. Okay. Trump wins. It's leaning that way. Just pay attention to what the national debate is. If the national debate is on the coronavirus, Trump loses. Mm-hmm. But you notice in the Republican National Convention, there wasn't a great deal even said about the coronavirus.
Yeah, or even, if you take a look, you take a look as this is developing. The Democrats have lost the ground about we can do better, even though the sitting president, he's a sitting president while Kenosha and Seattle and all this is taking place. That's weird. I mean, if you think about it, the first time I considered whether or not the Nixon land theory had application here, I would always say, you know what? I don't know that it does because we have a sitting president that's here while it's going on. It doesn't seem to matter, does it?
It does not seem to matter. And that prediction on your part is now so nascent because the debate now is Joe Biden and the Democrats are that being able to make that claim from the White House in the middle of your first term. It is somehow, some way, it's finding
the
footing.
Democrats are responsible.
Right.
And why is that happening? Well, you had
Why?
Kamala Harris out there saying these are headlines coming
Right.
from. This is right out of today's newspaper. I mean, not out of newspapers, but out of the Breitbarts and the Daily Caller and the Drudge. People don't understand how those headlines affect Middle America. These headlines: Kamala Harris, police officers have to face the consequences. I mean, really? She's saying that during a time people getting shot. Police
Right.
officer just died yesterday, and that's her headline.
tone deaf.
Or Biden blaming the police for violence and rioting.
They're tone
And
deaf.
so they're completely tone deaf.
They are.
It's like you've got a bunch of snowflakes running the narratives for the Democrats. I was telling Farron Cousins earlier, it's like celebrities are in charge of what the narrative is now.
Yeah.
It's MSNBC and CNN and even Fox. They believe they can turn the tide. They can't. And we see that they can't because they've tried. We believe that the celebrity night comedy shows are going to turn the tide. It's not working. But what's your
I'm
take?
curious for your take on this. Who's running the show in the Biden camp?
That's the problem.
Because I don't think Joe Biden
That is the problem. There really is nobody running the show. You have people that are sitting in various places telling. James Carville, great example. You realize Carville 6 weeks ago said that all Biden has to do is sit in the cellar and he's going to win?
Well, that's
I mean, the
terrible
numbers
advice.
are making
They
Carville
are.
look like an idiot.
They are.
And so now Biden has come out of the cellar. How's he doing?
Well, right now, he has to emerge as a leader, as strong, as decisive. But the problem is
He doesn't project that.
He doesn't project that. And in a 24-hour span, after he makes a statement, 24 hours later, his comments are forgotten. So something he is either not believable by the voter, or his message is so confusing and so muddled that you don't even know what exactly just happened after a press event.
Well, he was in the cellar. He could read a teleprompter.
Right.
Now he's out there. Yesterday he gives some comment about COVID. I swear to God, I don't know what he said.
Yeah.
And it was all over the headlines today. The dementia of Joe Biden.
Right.
Look, somebody's got to. It's like Home Alone for the Democrats. Somebody has to take control of the party.
And now the race is on to the debates. That's what is up next. The debates where he will stand toe to toe with Trump, and Biden's got to make the case.
He has to show up.
Yeah, he does.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
David. Well, I want to follow this very closely as weeks
Look
approach.
forward to
Thank
it.
you for joining me.